another sign of the changes in the Earth's magnetic field, which indicates the stabilization of the core and is probably unexpected for you. These are atypical auroras. You probably noticed that this year there are particularly many abnormally bright and frequent auroras in various non-typical places of the planet. People have posted numerous photos and videos on social networks admiring this phenomena. However, unfortunately, there isn't anything to admire, and now we will explain why. What is an aurora? This is the interaction of the solar wind with the Earth's magnetic field and the atmosphere. In simple terms, the solar wind particles interact with oxygen and nitrogen, causing them to emit light, which we observe as an aurora. Depending on how deeply charged particle can penetrate the atmosphere, what energy they have, the auroras with different colors we will observe. Each altitude has its own color, which is determined by the composition and density of the atmosphere. On Earth, we used to see green auroras, mainly on the poles. Green auroras occurs at the height of 60 to 130 kilometers above the Earth. Then solar wind particles with a medium energy interact with atomic oxygen. However, the auroras also can be red. It occurs due to the interaction of high-energy solar wind particles with atomic oxygen. Usually, it appears at the heights above 130 miles because such high-energy particles were prevented by the magnetic field from penetrating below this altitude. Red auroras were rare. They occurred only during the intense magnetic storms. Now, we observe an extremely alarming anomaly. Not only red auroras become more frequent, they already been observed at the altitude lower than 55 miles. What does it mean? First of all, this means that the magnetic field is weakening, and those active high-energy particles of solar wind, which were supposed to be reflected by the magnetic field, and they are freely penetrating deeper into the atmosphere and beginning to interact with atomic oxygen closer to the Earth. This is important to note that there is a penetration of larger, more highly charged particles that act more destructively. The fact that the red auroras occur in the lower layers of the atmosphere means that there are no longer protection above. The second reason why the auroras are behaving abnormally is the descent of the upper layer and middle layers of the atmosphere. The atmosphere is contracting, it is sinking, and the density of its upper and middle layers is decreasing. Moreover, its chemical composition is changing. Satellite data has revealed a decrease in the concentration of oxygen by 2 to 4 times at the altitudes of 80 miles. And the rate of the oxygen loss is significantly exceed all predictive model, indicating some pathological process leading to a decrease in oxygen in the atmosphere. Scientists also record the destruction of ozone by solar wind at the altitudes of 50 miles, and soon we will see the ozone layer being destroyed in the stratosphere at the altitudes of 30 miles. This means that we will lose our protection from UV radiation. Red auroras are already appearing in mid-latitude. Many of these were observed in February and March 2023. On January 5, 2023, the sky over Germany was colored red. This was example of anomalous static red aurora. In addition to anomalous red aurora, blue, teal, white, and even pink auroras have also been observed, which also indicate the penetration of solar wind closer to the surface of Earth and cracks in the magnetic field. During the solar flares, auroras are increasingly moving towards the equator. For example, during the strong magnetic storm on March 24, 2023, which scientists could not predict in advance and did not expect its arrival, the auroras was observed in the United States, even in southern regions, such as Virginia, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and in Arizona. Polar auroras started reaching southern latitudes in Europe, such as Czech Republic, Ukraine, and southern Russia. Unusual bright and frequent auroras which now occur far from the polar region, cannot be explained by activity of the sun, as the sun is currently in a prolonged minimum of its activity, meaning that the fewer particles from solar wind will reach the Earth. The only explanation for the auroras anomalies is that the magnetic field is critically weakening, the atmosphere is contracting, and the solar wind is descending closer and closer to the surface. This is scary because it shows a large disturbance in the magnetic field, and it is a sign that the Earth's core is no longer working properly. We are horrified by the fact that people are now just admiring this phenomenon without realizing that this is the black mark of Cerberus. Admiring the northern lights with their rare colors is like admiring the cleanliness and sharpness of a blade when you are lying on a guillotine. Unfortunately, the scientific community does not consider the problem comprehensively as they should. These processes will only intensify further, and there will be more and more harsh radiation coming from space.
Few people